Hi, I'm Jillian and part of the customer success team here at Uflo. Today, I will be walking you through the basics of how to manage a learning objective with 6 tools. First, identifying depth of knowledge levels, known as DOKs. Second, identifying learning domains. Third, creating new learning objectives. Fourth, updating the content of a current learning objective. Fifth, deleting a learning objective. Sixth, and finally, arranging the order of a learning objective. Let's start flowing and learning. Learning objectives in Uflo are organized under each lesson. To select them, you first select the chapter and then the lesson you wish to open. Then, by clicking on the Create button, you will be able to title the learning objective, give a short description of its content, assign it to a level of Webb's depth of knowledge, and identify the domain of what learning it is. First, let's go over how to identify Webb's depth of knowledge. When you assign a learning objective to Webb's DOK, you determine the level of thinking required of the task. Tasks at DOK Level 1 are focused on remembering and reproducing what has been learned. For example, in a unit on climate change at DOK Level 1, learners can identify examples of climate change. For a learning objective at DOK Level 2, tasks for students are focused on the use of concepts in simple settings. For example, learners at this level can describe how climate change affects individuals throughout the world. A learning objective at DOK Level 3 requires reasoning in more complex settings. For example, learners at this level can explain programs that communities have developed to combat climate change. Finally, a learning objective at DOK Level 4 demands the most complex thinking. Typically, it is extended over many subtasks with multiple complex conditions. For example, learners at this level can discuss how the results of coordinated international efforts can reduce the effects of climate change. Second, let's identify outcome domains. Each type of thinking can occur in one of 3 domains. The first domain is the thinking space where you or your students are focused on the acquisition of knowledge. This is what you want yourself or your students to know. For example, by the end of this lesson, students will be able to list the major causes of climate change. The second domain is behavior and skill. This is what you want yourself or your students to be able to do. For example, by the end of this lesson, students will be able to implement 4 activities that reduce their carbon footprint. Initially, you need conscious knowledge to carry out tasks, but with practice, it becomes second nature and you can perform effortlessly without much thought. The final domain is belief and disposition. Sometimes the way we think and feel, along with our unconscious habits, can get in the way of learning new things or developing new skills. This is where it is important to focus on what motivates you or your students to get involved and succeed. For example, by the end of this lesson, students will encourage 4 individuals to engage in sustainable practices. This objective focuses on increasing students' willingness to use the knowledge and skills that they acquired. Now that we've understood the elements of a learning objective, let's create one together. For this tutorial video, we will continue with our climate change example. Then, by clicking the Create button at the top of the column, we can title our learning objective. For this climate change example, I will name it Understanding Sea Level Rise Projections. And then, Give a short description of the objective. Help students understand how sea levels are projected to rise due to climate change. Next, select the complexity associated with your objective. For this example, its complexity is DOK Level 2. Finally, select the objective learning domain. In this scenario, its domain is knowledge acquisition. Once you have filled out all of this information, click Submit to save your work. Another way to create an objective is to right-click on the learning objective and then click Create. After creating a learning objective, you might want to update it. You can access the Update button by right-clicking on the objective. This simply allows you to adjust the contents of your objective. For instance, we could update the title to Rising Sea Level Projections, and then click Submit to save the changes. Sometimes you need to delete an objective that you no longer need. This is where the Delete button comes in handy, which you can find by right-clicking the objective. It is important to note that this action is irreversible, meaning once you delete an objective, you may no longer access its content. Finally, you may need to arrange your objectives in a particular way. The Order button is what you need, which you can find by right-clicking over any objective. Then, simply click, hold, and drag the objective you wish to move. Once it is in the right order, drop the objective. If you wish to erase the changes you made to your order, click the X button and refresh your page. To save your changes, click Confirm Order at the top of the column. Once again, to reach these learning objective management options, all you have to do is right-click the objective that you wish to manage. Let's recap. In this video, we learned the basics of how to manage a learning objective with 6 tools. First, identifying DOK levels. Second, identifying learning domains. Third, creating new learning objectives. Fourth, updating the content of a learning objective. Fifth, deleting a learning objective. Sixth, and finally, arranging the order of a learning objective. Check out our next video on tips and tricks of how to upload your documents. Happy studying and flowing!